Good morning. Thank you guys for being with me on this Monday morning. This is I think it's the first class really on the next series of classes we're going to do over the next 4 or 5 weeks. It's really going to help you guys take your business to the next level. And ultimately, I've been trying to kind of put classes together that really fit in and feed into one another to help give you guys some real content that builds on one another to be able to give you some stuff to really help grow your business. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. So I appreciate you taking the time, for those of you that are here with me live, and then for the rest of you that are watching this as a recorded video that I'll have up a little bit later today. So let me go ahead and start the slideshow here, and let's get going. So how to win at the listing appointment every time. Now, for those of you that are with me live this morning, the Florida Association of Realtors sent an email out that was talking about buyers, especially here in Florida, are at an all-time high. So we have tons of buyers out there looking to buy right now, and yet our inventory levels are way, way down. So what we're finding are sellers are more hesitant to leave right now unless they specifically have to. So listings are at an all-time low, buyers are at an all-time high. This creates kind of a unique dynamic for us because right now, if I were trying to really get my business going, I would focus on picking up listings. Because again, if I've got a huge pool of buyers, and I've talked to a few of you guys who have told me that in the past couple of weeks, you're submitting offers on properties and the sellers are getting 3, 4, 5, sometimes 7 offers on that property in a very short period of time. So it would be so much better for all of us to be able to be on the seller side of this and to basically put out our marketing, use the high quality photography, which I did the class on last week. So if you guys missed that, I would encourage you to go back and watch it. But use that high quality photography, use the marketing, use the tools that we give you to be able to put the best foot for this listing forward so that you literally will have people beating down your doors to submit offers. Do you think if we're working by referral and we're doing all these things with the seller, and I can go, hey, what if I could get you multiple offers in the first 7 to 10 days of your listing? Do you think a seller is going to be more likely to list with you? Absolutely. So we're going to talk about how do you win at the listing appointment consistently. So here's what happens. There are agents out there who list a ton of homes, but traditionally don't sell them. And the reason for that is they take listings at a price point that's not reasonable. They don't do a good job of marketing. They stick a sign in the yard and wait for the phone to ring. And that's not how you're going to consistently win at a listing appointment. I traditionally have not taken a listing if the seller had an unrealistic expectation about what that price should be. So if I go in with all of my research and I say, listen, your home is worth $230,000. And they say, nah, I was really thinking more like $250,000. Okay, great. Where did you get that number from? Oh, that's what Zillow told me. Okay. Awesome. So Zillow is wrong. It just is. Every once in a while, they'll get it right, but 90% of the time or more, Zillow is wrong. But I guarantee you that every agent has looked at Zillow to see what their home is worth. So this is something that we as an industry are really fighting against. But even so, if I'm going to tell a seller that their home is worth whatever it's worth, I'm going to need to convince them that I am the agent that they should hire to sell this home, as opposed to another agent that they may talk to that goes, yeah, let's just list it for $250,000 and see what happens. Because in their mind, what they're trying to do is put their sign in the yard so that they can pick up buyers who will buy at a realistic price point. They don't particularly care whether or not they sell that listing. And it's a fundamental flaw in the listing philosophy. So how do you win consistently? And that's what we're going to talk about. There are 3 primary purposes and objectives to this class. The first one is to review the key points on the preparation. So what do you do before you ever get to that listing appointment? The second one will be to show you the insights of a proven strategy and techniques that strengthen your ratio for obtaining signed listing agreements with the terms you propose. So that's important, and we're going to talk through that. The third one is to actually walk through the presentation to demonstrate technique on every aspect of that appointment. The walkthrough, the seating arrangement, the body language, hot buttons, determining who the decision makers are, and then handling those objections. Now, the body language we'll touch on a little bit today, but that's actually something that's going to come up in our personality class in 2 weeks, I believe. Next week is next week is negotiations. The following week is body language and personality assessment. So those are both really good classes I would encourage you guys to attend. Now, how do we win at the listing appointment? Let's start with the pre-appointment qualifying. So somehow you get in front of this person that's interested in selling their home, whether it's a personal referral, whether it's an internet lead, whether it's something else you buy, whatever the case may be, you need to qualify the seller a little bit before you get to that listing appointment. Now, what does that mean? Well, you need to qualify the seller's desire, expectations, and needs before the live appointment. Those are their hot button issues. So, okay, Mr. Seller, thank you so much for calling me. Tell me, why are you looking to sell right now? You know, maybe they've heard the market is hot. Maybe they've heard their home is worth a lot more money than they thought it was. Maybe they've got to move for a job. Maybe kids are changing schools. Maybe they're downsizing. Maybe they're upsizing. Find out why they're making that change, because their motivation is going to be a big factor into how you price that home. For example, if the seller tells me, I just got a job in Houston and I've got to be there in 3 weeks. Awesome. What that tells me is you are motivated to get a contract on your home today. So we're not going to price your home $25,000 high and wait and do price reductions every 15 or 30 days because you don't have time. You need to price this house aggressively and you need to get it sold quickly. That's a great thing for me to know. If you come back and say something like, well, I've heard my house is worth a lot more money than I thought, so I want to see what I can get for it. Okay, great. I will still do the listing appointment, but this is a seller rather that if the price is right, I'll sell, but they're not highly motivated. There's not a life change. There's not, something in their life that has changed that is causing them to put their home on the market today. So again, all of these are fine, but I want to know that motivation before I get there. And then ask them, what are their expectations? What are they looking for? What are they looking to do? And then what are their needs? Are they staying in the area? Are they looking to buy another home? Are they, what are they doing? Understanding all of this up front will help you to kind of cater and tailor that listing appointment to have you get the best results. Now, we also have the FLR listing pre-appointment script. So if you go into Ask Luxie and just type in the word listing or the word script, you can go in and find the FLR listing pre-appointment script. And I would encourage you guys to use that because there is immense value in knowing the questions to ask and being comfortable with having the ability to overcome some of those objections right out of the gate. So first and foremost, qualify your sellers. It is pretty common that somebody calls and goes, hey, I want to list my house, that we're like, yay, okay, awesome, I'll be there tomorrow. But there's really some questions that we want to ask to be able to do this effectively and properly. So don't become what I call a Pop-Tart realtor. Don't just go, as soon as the phone calls, you pop up and you do exactly what needs to be done. They expect that you are a professional. So if you tell them, hey, thank you so much for your call. I would love to meet with you. I'm all tied up today, but I have an appointment tomorrow at 2 or 6, which is better for you. This shows that you are a professional. You're not just somebody sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for the phone to ring. Because at the end of the day, contrary to what your instincts might tell you, they don't want an agent that has nothing going on. because what that tells them is you're not busy. So if you're not busy, there's probably a reason for that. Give them that appearance of, hey, I would love to do this for you. Here are my appointment times. Which one works for you? Okay. The second one, the hot button issues are what the seller believes and what the seller wants. It is vitally important that you understand those two things. What do they believe and what do they want? What that will tell you is how to strategize to prepare yourself for that appointment, how you'll be able to move past their objections a bit more easily and with higher level of success, and to adjust your presentation to be the most powerful at earning the job. So here's the kind of blessing and the curse of the Florida luxury listing presentation, okay? There are so many things in that listing presentation that set our value. The curse to that is that not every seller is going to care about all of those things. So we run the risk of potentially losing them if we're talking about how we're going to do this mega open house and we're going to do all these things, and then the seller goes, yeah, right now with everything going on, I'm really not fanatical about having 50 people come through my house in 2 hours. You know what? That's totally fine. If I know that in advance, don't want to spend a ton of time talking about all these open houses because now I'm selling them on something that they're not comfortable with. Okay? So think about that. What do they believe and what do they want? How can I help them achieve their goal, whatever that goal is? We want to be able to set you guys up for success. So success comes from homework. It's the same thing I tell my daughter. It doesn't matter how well you read. If you don't understand the content and you don't do the homework well, you're not going to perform at your best when test time comes. So when it comes time to take that test, to show up for that listing appointment, to be able to be effective, your homework and your strategy is going to make all the difference in the world. That's the difference between the agents that have a very high success rate at listing appointments and the ones who go in and do a ton of them but get very few listings. Now, the second step is creating your CMA. Again, your homework. I don't want somebody to call me and go, hey, can you be here in an hour? Well, could I? Probably. But does that give me enough time to get all my homework done? Absolutely not. So now I'm scrambling to try and get there to do this in such a way that I'm not going to be the most effective that I can be. So set your appointments, create your CMA. Now the CMA is your comparative market analysis, okay? This effectively tells you what is this home worth in the neighborhood where it sits, in the community where it sits, in the zip code where it sits, because we all know a home in Spring Hill and a home on Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa, they might be the exact same floor plan, the exact same builder, the exact same everything. But those two homes in very different locations will be worth totally different amounts. Okay? So that's why we want to do a comparative market analysis. We want to quantify and qualify what this home is worth, where it sits, and in the condition that it's in. But how do I know the condition if I haven't seen it yet? That's where that pre-listing script comes in. There's a few questions in there that ask some of those key things that are going to allow you to understand the value of this property even when you can't see it, right? How old is the roof? How old is the air conditioner? What type of flooring do you have? Obviously, you're going to need the address, and the address is going to tell you how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, things like that. But I always like to double check. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how much square footage do you have? Are there any other updates that have been done in the last few years to the home that you've done? Oh yeah, we put in a brand new kitchen. Great. You know, we just poured a new patio. We had the driveway done with pavers, new roof, new AC, new water heater, whatever the things are. Make notes of those in advance. Get as much of this information as you can. Does your home have a pool? Things like that. Because again, I want to make sure when I'm doing the CMA that I'm comparing apples to apples. I don't want to compare a 2,000 square foot home with a pool to a 1,200 square foot home without a pool. Now, they might both be 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage homes, but those two are not comparable. So I need to get this information so that I can make sure that my data is correct. My homework is correct when I get there, because that's what's going to set you up as success. Now, if you guys have been in any of my classes in the last 2 years, you know that I harp on 3 things. Somebody has to know you, has to like you, and has to trust you to be willing to work with you. Know you, like you, trust you. If you can get those 3 things, you can get this person to be a customer for you. Okay? Know you, like you, trust you. Well, obviously, if this person is calling you, they know who you are, they know you're a real estate agent. There has to be some level of desire to work with you, or they wouldn't have called you, whether that comes from a referral or maybe you're just the person that answered the phone. So you want to get them to like you. You want to be personable. You want to be an expert. And that's where that trust you part comes in. Because you need them to believe that you are the expert at getting their home sold. So at Florida Luxury, we give you a lot of those tools and a lot of the things that you need to position yourself as the expert, but you have to believe it too. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So let's talk about the strategy when we create that winning CMA. Now, I do a completely separate class on CMAs. So if you guys haven't watched that class on how to price homes and how to do CMAs, I would encourage you to do that, because there I give you my rules about size differences and all those different things that come into that. So if you haven't watched it, I'd encourage you to go over and watch that after you're done with this. Don't leave now to go do that. But when you create that winning CMA, there's really 4 things that you want to do that are going to set you up for success. Demonstrate the quality of marketing, your photos, your public remarks, your completeness of data. When you're doing this CMA, look to see how these other agents that had homes that are similar handled this. Show them. Homes that sold in 12 days had professional photography and a high quality write-up and a great marketing strategy, like what I'm going to do for you. This home that was on the market for 83 days, they went through 3 price reductions and they shot the photos with a cell phone. This is what not to do, but incorporate this into your CMA. Be cognizant of these things. Include your expireds. What else in that community expired or didn't sell? Why didn't they sell? Was it overpriced? Were they not offering a competitive commission? Was the write-up garbage? Was the photography garbage? Whatever it is, pay attention to this. It's not just about coming up with a bottom line number, but it really comes down to having a CMA that is going to reinforce your value to this seller. The third one is propose market value with a range. Don't ever walk into a seller and go, your home is worth $232,736. It's just not how it works. Give them a range. On the high end, because then again, most of the time you haven't seen this home. So you might walk in and they might have 23 cats and this house just smells like ammonia. That's going to make a difference on how I price this home. So have a range. If you want to get this home sold in 5 days, we can price it here at the low end of this range. We can get a bidding war. We can get a bunch of offers in here and get you out of here as quickly as possible. The mid-range is kind of our true market value. That would be your $232,736, whatever. That's your mid-range, that kind of all things being equal. And then you might have a high range. If you come in there and everything is updated and this home is completely redone, then, and they have a little bit of time, they're not pushing to get out of here today, then maybe we can list it toward the high end of this range. Now, this range shouldn't be $50,000 wide. It shouldn't be 225 to 275. narrow your range in a little bit, but show them, hey, according to my values, according to my research, I say that your home is worth $235,000. So if you want to get it sold quickly, let's list it for $229,900 and blow it out. If you've got a little bit of time, let's list it for $239,900 and see if, maybe we can get somebody to land closer to that $235,000 that I think your home is worth. Have a range. And the third or fourth one rather is to have pocket comps. So what does this mean? These are comparables that the seller would know about that are not similar to their home. And I'll tell you why this is important. Well, Don over there on the corner, his house is smaller than mine. He doesn't have a pool, but he sold his house for $245,000. So mine must be worth $260,000. Okay. But here's why that's not a comparable. Your home is 2,200 square feet. His home is 2,800 square feet or whatever. They think that just because they're on the same street or just because they're in the same community, that everything must be a comparable. And of course, they're going to be buddies with Don down the street, and they're going to know exactly what he got for his house. Here's the other thing. Has Don's house appraised yet? Has Don's house closed yet? Probably not. He's listed for $249,000. Does he have a contract at that price? Maybe not. Oh, but his house is worth $250,000, so mine's got to be more than that, whatever the case may be. Have those comparables. Because here's what I'm going to do when I come in there. Oh, Don, do you mean the one on the same street? Yeah, okay, great. His house has been on the market 183 days and hasn't gone under contract, and they've dropped the price twice. Oh, I didn't know that. Nope, you didn't, but I do. Because that's my job. That's why I'm very good at what I do. And guys, I've had this exact conversation almost verbatim on nearly every listing appointment I've ever gone on. Because there's always going to be properties in the community, in the street, in the whatever. Oh, he sold a year ago. Okay, great. A year ago, things were different. We didn't have a pandemic a year ago, whatever. So use those comparables. Don't necessarily include it in your pricing, but have those sheets in your folder, in your box, in your bag, in whatever you've got. When you go to do that listing appointment, and so you can pull it out and go, oh, I actually saw that one. It's right here. That presents you as the expert. Because when you are the expert, you now don't have to negotiate as much for your commission, for getting them to list with you, because you have proven to them that you know what you're doing. And that makes all the difference in the world. Your confidence is what's going to drive your success almost as much as anything else. Your homework and your confidence. Number 3 is be prepared for a yes. I can't tell you how many times this happens. Agents go in there, they do their listing appointment, and the seller says, okay, cool, let's fill out the paperwork. Oh, let me go back to my office and get that paperwork set up. No, guys, you've lost. You need to walk into that listing appointment with the paperwork filled out, ready to list that house today. And I don't necessarily mean list it in the MLS, but get that listing agreement signed while you're there. Be prepared for that yes. Now, here's the cool thing. When you guys get that listing paperwork signed, it doesn't have to become effective today. So we've got to get a photographer in here. We've got to get, maybe we need to get some stuff cleaned up. We've got to get some clutter moved. We need to move some of this furniture out. You guys can fill out your listing appointment so that it becomes effective 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever, in the future. So sign it today, but have your start date, excuse me, I got hiccups. Have your listing date or your effective date be a week in the future. That's totally okay. Understand though that in that interim period, we can't market it or list it or have our sign put in or anything else because of the Fair Cooperation Act that the MLS has now enacted. And actually the National Association of Realtors enacted it. What it says is we can't market that property more than 24 hours before our listing goes live. But if you know that there are things that have to happen in this house, don't just say, okay, great, I'll come back in a week to execute this listing agreement. No, get it signed today, but just put an effective date in the future. You can absolutely do that. And I would encourage you to do that. I've done it on just about every listing I've ever taken because I know I haven't seen that house before I walk in there. I don't know how cluttered it is. I don't know how it smells. I don't know how it looks. I don't know if the seller was ready for photography that day. So I want to be able to post data, but this becomes part of the conversation. But you know what? When I show up to that listing appointment, I'm going to have my exclusive right to sell form. I'm going to have my MLS input form. I'm going to have my affiliated business for Crown Title. I'm going to have all those other things that I need ready to go. If the home is in an HOA, I'm going to know that in advance. I'm going to do my homework and show up with an HOA form. I'm going to know when this house was built. If it was built before 1978, I'm going to have a lead-based paint form in my package. I'm going to be the professional that is ready to go as soon as that seller says yes. And my expectation is when I go do that listing appointment, the seller is going to say yes. So I'm going to be prepared right from the beginning to take that listing today. Now, here's a couple of strategies about having those documents filled out. So when I go in, the address is going to be filled out. The legal description will be filled out. All the information that I know about that home, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, all these things, all of that will be already filled out, ready to go. Because here's the strategy. One, it makes it really simple for the sellers to sign. My commission amount is already plugged in there. My cancellation fee is already in there. All those things that are part of this documentation, it's already filled out. So what does that do? Makes it non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. My commission amount's already in there. At that point, I'm not writing it in. I am filling it out in advance. So all I have to do is add in my list price that we settle on, get my effective date and my expiration date filled in, and I'm good to go. And like I mentioned, my commission is predetermined. So I have the best marketing and the best professional service. My value is established because I am the professional. In my listing presentation, I have already shown you why I am worth every bit of that commission. Now, an objection that you might hear is, well, I talked to, Joe at ABC Realty and he's willing to list it for 4%. I'm sure he is. But is Joe going to do this or this or this? Or even better, what is Joe going to do to sell your home at 4%? Is he going to leverage any of the tools? Do you want a cut rate agent or do you want an agent that's a professional that's going to sell your home properly? If you want a professional, this is what it costs. And you know what? I will earn every cent of it. I can count on one hand the number of times that I have reduced my commission. I just didn't do it. I didn't need to. Because I know my worth and I know the value of what I bring to the table. The third one is the length of a listing is a predetermined length of time. Now, I don't typically fill out the listing begin and end date in advance because I don't know exactly when we're going to list it. So in here, now my length of my listing is a predetermined length of time. I really will probably push for a 6-month or 9-month or 12-month listing. I'm not an agent that wants to take a 90-day listing. Now, in this market, I might consider it. Over the last 8 years, I probably wouldn't have. because I want at least 6 months to get this home sold. And ideally, I really want a year. And I tell the seller, I don't have any expectation that we're still going to be on the market a year from now. But what's the harm? You see the value in what I'm going to do. I'm going to work to get your property under contract as quickly as possible. Now, my claim to fame when I was doing my listing appointments was every listing that I had taken, if they priced it the way I told them to price it, and if the home was under about $450,000, I would get it under contract in 30 days or less. That was my claim to fame. So I did that by being effective in my pricing strategies, setting realistic expectations, being aggressive in my marketing, using quality photos and a quality write-up. That's it. Every listing I had went under contract in 30 days or less because I knew what it took to sell homes. So when I have this Joe Blow agent going, oh, I'm going to list it at 4%. So what I've done, and again, I'm very careful to never talk negatively about other agents, but I pull up Joe's listings and I pull up Joe's sold and I say, oh, okay, well, every listing that Joe has been on the market for more than 30 days, 60, 90, 120, however long they are. And all of the listings that he had took exponentially longer to sell. Now, could I sell your home at 4%? Yeah, I probably could. But you have to understand that every listing I take costs me money. I can work with a buyer for free. I can't take a listing for free. I have a lockbox. I have a sign. I have photography. I have time and marketing. I have all these things that I physically have to spend money on today to take your listing. I know what it takes to sell your home. And I'm very good at what I do. That's it. That's all I have to do. And you know what? I don't typically reduce my commission. I don't have to. Because I sell the value of who I am and what I do right up front. That's it. That's what it takes. So all that stuff should be printed and filled out in advance. Have all of that stuff ready to go. Because the more that is filled out, one, it shows the seller that you were ready to get this done today. Two, it shows that you're professional, that you did all this in advance. And three, it makes these items non-negotiable. So in the pre-listing kind of preparation, do you guys have any questions? Next, we're going to move into what happens when we actually get to the house. But I want to stop here because that's a lot of information to throw at you. Do you guys have any questions before we move on? Nope. All right. So how do you win at the listing appointment? You've got to have a strategy. This is the one area that I would encourage you guys not to go in there and just wing it. Don't wing it in a listing appointment. Practice your scripts, practice your listing appointments, do your homework. I can't emphasize that enough. Success in a listing appointment is all about the preparation. So it's 90% preparation and 10% execution, right? How you practice is how you perform. Practice, be polished. Don't fumble through your listing appointment because those are the things that are going to keep you from having that success. Invest your time up front so that you will have success when you're in front of a customer ready to play. That's how you do it. So here's some tools for success. Consultation review and interview notes. Keep track of the notes that you made when you talked to them the first time. Because here's what happens. I make these notes, I show up a few days later, and now I have a phone that I have a little stylus here. So I keep all my notes right in my phone. Okay? Maybe you carry a notebook, and that's totally okay too. but dedicate a certain area just to this customer. So when I come in, I pull out my notes and go, okay, so based on our conversation, your air conditioner was replaced in 2014, your roof was replaced in 2011, the water heater was 2018. You were gonna look on when this was replaced. Were you able to find that? All these notes are already there from our first conversation. It's important that you have those with you. Second one, have your computer or your tablet. Again, being able to pull it up and look for information quickly is very effective. The third thing is your listing presentation flip book. Now, maybe you do your listing presentation on your computer instead of a flip book, and that's fine too. And the fourth one is those listing agreement documents that we just talked about. I'm going to have all four of those things, or at least three of them if you're not using the presentation flip book, if you're going to use your computer. You're going to have those ready to go when you show up. Okay? Now, strategy counts. So follow the 4 B's. Be prepared, be confident, be 15 minutes early, and be certain that all your decision makers are present. This fourth one is vitally important. Make sure all your decision makers are present. So you're meeting with the wife, but the husband's not available. Well, the husband is probably part of this decision-making process. So when I make that appointment, I just want to confirm that, you know, both decision makers or all of the parties that are decision makers are going to be present. Because the biggest mistake you can make in your business is doing a listing presentation for half of your decision makers. Because what have you done? You've wasted your time. Because now you are at the mercy of the person that you talk to convey your value to that other person. How much of what you told them do you think they're going to retain? And I'll put this question out there because this is a good one. And I've actually studied the psychology of this. When you give somebody information, and you guys can put your answers into chat because I'm curious to see if anybody gets it. What is the average retention that somebody has of the information that they're given from 0 to 100%? How much do you think the average person retains in terms of the information that they're given? And I'll give you guys a second to put it in chat. Give me a number. So Diane says about 35%. Nicole says 30%. Brad says 30. Katie says 50. Wendy says 20. Tracy says 105. I wish. In reality, it's about 10%. So the average person retains about 10% of what they're told. That's crazy. 10%. So if you go through and you read all these statistics and you read all this information, the average person retains 10%. So if I don't have all my decision makers there, only 10% of what I have told them will be accurately conveyed to the other person. Do you think I have a really strong chance of being selected if only 10% of my value gets conveyed? I don't think so. So, oh, and Tracy said he put 10%. Okay, so he actually got it right. Good job, Tracy. 10%. So it is important that all my decision makers are present so that when I am conveying this value to them, that's what's going to be kept. Be prepared, be confident, be early, and make sure your decision makers are present. Now, 15 minutes early. Let's talk about that for just a second. Do you knock on the door 15 minutes early? No. Why do I want to be 15 minutes early? Because I want to drive around the community. I want to see how the other homes in the community look. I want to see what the for sale signs look like. Can you use any for sale sign, or does the community have special signs that are required? In Trinity, for example, all of the listing signs have to be the green Trinity listing signs. Doesn't matter what company you're with, doesn't matter what they have to be green. In Champions Club, they have to be black and gold. These are the things that I'm going to notice as I'm driving around this community because I'm early. What else does being early do? It allows you to not be stressed, to be nice and calm, and to be able to get into your space where when you walk in, you can be confident. Because if you guys are anything like me, there is nothing more stressful in the world than being late for an appointment. I grew up in a military house. So my dad always said, if you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. And if you're on time, you're late. What that means is the clock in my car, my watch, everything I have is set 5 minutes fast. So right now my clock says that it's 10:45, even though it's actually 10:41. I set my clock to be 5 minutes fast, always. And I still strive to be 5 minutes early, even in my car clock. So in reality, I'm 10 minutes early. But what that does is it allows me not to stress about being late. It also shows that I'm professional. Now, I am going to knock on the door 5 minutes early because my clock's going to say that it's, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, whatever my appointment time is. But I'm going to be 5 minutes early because that shows that I am prompt and I do exactly what I say I'm going to do. Typically 5 minutes early, people are not going to be like, oh, I wasn't expecting you until 4. If I show up 15 minutes early, they may not be ready for me. But it gives me an opportunity to get more information, to do that last little bit of homework. Because if I drive up and this house has broken down cars in the driveway and grass up to the windows, and every other home in this community is nicely landscaped and well kept, this is going to impact the way I price this home. Alternatively, if this home is beautiful, but you've got a car on blocks on both sides, that's going to affect how other potential buyers view this home. So even though I can do photos and I can make all of this look beautiful, when they pull up and they're like, oh, that's what's on both sides of this, it's going to impact that. Now, we can't control the neighbors. I won't even pretend that we can. But these are things that I want to be cognizant of as I get ready to go do this listing appointment. Now, when you arrive, so now I've knocked on the door. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I really appreciate your time. Okay? I always have my bag with me. I carry a messenger bag. I can't reach it with my headphones in. I carry a messenger bag. My laptop is in it. My files are in it. Everything I need is there. What I typically ask is, can we go sit this down at the kitchen table? So what I do is I will walk down and I will set my bag where I want to sit at the table. It's strategic. It's specific. And then what I do is when I set it down, I'm either going to pull out my notebook or I'm going to pull out my phone and stylus. And I'm going to say, before we get started, what I'd really love to do is just have you give me a quick tour on the home. Point out the features that caused you to really fall in love with this home. Because more often than not, the next buyer is also going to fall in love with those exact same features. And I'm going to make notes. As we're walking through, they're going to go, oh, we just repainted. Great, making notes. How does the home smell? I'm making notes about that. Do you get anything? Now, I am terrible for smells. If this person has ever owned a ferret, for example, I will tell you the second I walk in a house. If anybody has ever smoked in a house or in a car, I will tell you immediately. I am super sensitive for things like that. So I'm always very cognizant of how does a home smell? Because a lot of buyers are going to notice that as well. And it's something that's really quick and easy that we can fix or have a seller fix. Hey, why don't we go get a couple of clean linen plugins to put in there, some Febreze plugins to help disinfect some of that smell that's in the room. Because if they've lived there for a long time, they may not even notice it. Yeah, the Febreze commercials talk about being nose blind. It's the same idea. I am super sensitive to it. How does it smell? Is it dark? Is it well lit? You know, these are things like that that I want to be thinking about as I'm doing this walkthrough tour. But I'm not going to all be in my head. I'm going to be listening to that seller, but the whole time I'm making notes. I'm writing down all of this as I go through the house. Anything that they point out that was a selling feature to them. Oh, we loved this bonus room. Awesome. Loved bonus room. How big is this bonus room? Do you know? Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, no problem. We'll measure it. But all these things that you can get from them are going to make it so that you know how to market that home for the next buyer. So walk through, get your tour, take notes on any concerns regarding decor, damage, likes, dislikes that the buyer may have, both positively and negatively. Is there clutter, like in this right picture? Are the rooms really cluttered? Okay, one suggestion, once we get through all this, a suggestion that I might make for you would be before we do the photography and when we're ready to do the showings, let's have all of this stuff put up. Or maybe there's tons of furniture in the room. And you may go, you know what? Is there any way that we could move one of these pieces of furniture to the garage? It would really open up this room and make it a lot more inviting. Or maybe they have blackout curtains on the windows. Hey, one suggestion that I might make is when you're getting ready for showings, open these curtains up and tie them back and open the blinds, because we want this home to be as open and bright and inviting as we can possibly make it. These are the things that as an expert, you want to do to be able to help them get this home sold, right? These are the things that are going to set you apart, because very few agents are going to do this well. So be effective that way. Now, now it's time for the presentation and the consultation. So we've done our homework. I set my stuff down at the table. We've done our tour. I've gotten all this information. Now we go sit down at the kitchen table. So I sit where mine are, where my bag was, and then I put the sellers across the table from me. Now, sometimes you're gonna have a circular table and you're not gonna be able to really do it, or a small table where you can't put you on one side and them on the other. But in as much as you can, try and keep them on one side and you on the other. Because what it does is when I have my listing presentation, I can open my flip book and I'm gonna turn it so that it's upside down to me, but right facing to them. Now, when I practice my listing presentation, I practice it upside down, because that is the only way that I expect to ever look at this listing presentation. So when I'm going through it, I'm practicing it upside down, because that's how you're gonna look at it. So try and sit on one side, put them on the other. Know what's going to come next. Position yourself so that you can look them eye to eye. Now, here's another takeaway. When you're doing the walkthrough, pay attention to who's doing most of the talking. But here's the danger, I guess, for lack of a better word. Don't assume that the person doing all the talking is the decision maker. Sometimes the decision maker is the one that's just sitting quiet, not saying a word. So if when I sit down to do this presentation, if I am only talking to the one person that's been talking the whole time, and I'm excluding that decision maker, I've lost. Figure out pretty quick, and this is going to come into the body language and personalities and things like that you guys are going to pretty quickly be able to identify who the decision maker is. Now, in some cases, the person doing most of the talking is actually the decision maker, and that's fine. But just understand that's not always the case. So in as much as I can, I want to address both of them. I want to pose questions to one and then the other. Because what I've also found is sometimes the sellers are not necessarily on the same page with each other. What one thinks is not going to be the same as what the other one thinks. So now when I'm pitching my value, sometimes I'm going to have to sell harder to one than the other because the one is already on board with me. But the other one is like, I don't know about that. So I need to be able to watch that body language and be able to understand what's going on. So engage all the sellers. Confirm their pre-qualifying questions. So as I'm sitting there, okay, we talked about this home has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Now you mentioned the home had 2,200 square feet, but when I went into tax records, it showed 2,072. Is that correct? Oh yeah, maybe it is 2,000. I thought it was 2,200 for some reason. Okay, no problem. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an addition or something else that's been added that would change what's in the tax records. No, that must be right. Okay, great. Just wanted to confirm. Determine or confirm their hot buttons. So as we've gone through and talked, you mentioned that you really loved this pool area. So when we do our photography, I'm going to make sure that we showcase this area very well. You know, you really loved that it was a split floor plan so that the bedrooms were on opposite ends of the house. You really liked whatever that is. You also confirmed the hot buttons in the, okay, and so you had mentioned that you're looking to be out of here in 30 days, right? Yep. Okay, what's the job that's taking you to Houston? Have that conversation because again, you're building that rapport with them. Know you, like you, trust you. This all comes from this conversation building. Now, it is also important that your body language helps you to maintain control and to retain control. If you get flustered or your body language changes and all of a sudden you're like slouched down in your chair and you look like somebody just kicked your dog, you guys are losing. Sit up straight, eye contact, be engaging, get what you need to get done. Maintain your connection and retain that control. That's how you win at a listing appointment. Use your flipbook presentation. Use your laptop. Again, it's important that as you guys are doing this, you need to be polished. Now, I don't mean that you need to be perfect, but you need to be polished. You need to know what's on the next page before you flip it. Because I'm already starting to talk about that as I flip the page. What does that do? It tells the seller that I know what the heck I'm doing. Whether this is my first time or not, I don't want that seller to know this is my first time going through this listing presentation. I want to be polished. I want to be as close to perfect as I can get. Because I am the expert. I am the only agent that you're going to talk to that is capable of getting your home sold for top dollar and with the least amount of stress possible. And by the time I leave, you better believe that. That's the confidence. That's what comes from knowing your stuff. Maintain eye contact. Now, don't be obsessive, sitting here staring at them, but maintain eye contact, bounce back and forth. Look down at your presentation when there's something that you want them to pay attention to, look down at it. Because what's going to happen is when they're looking at you, eyes are going to follow yours. Pause. Use your closing techniques. When you go through, this is one of the things that I do that I believe is immensely valuable. Do you agree? Yes. Ask them questions that they answer yes. Now there's a whole subconscious thing to this, but as you go along, the more times you can get them to say yes or get them to agree with you or get them to buy into what you're saying, the better your closing factor is. Get them to say yes. Use those closing techniques. Confirm that your sellers are engaged. If they're sitting over there and they're rocking in their chair and they're looking around and they're not really listening to you, you're losing them. Get them engaged. Ask a question. Now, here's the art to it. You don't want to just ask yes or no questions. You want to ask questions that get them to respond to you, but you also want to give them questions that are going to allow them to say yes and allow them to agree with you. So you have to kind of use the balance and go back and forth with it. Persuade your decision maker. Know who your decision maker is. Now, when you show them a CMA, sorry, I've still got hiccups. You want to show them the detailed property information of the properties that they're competing with, the ones that are already under contract, the ones that are recently sold, and the ones that expired. But here's the thing. These forms are filled with all kinds of real estate jargon. You know, ODM, COE, MT, AMT, APN, NK. You know, we use all sorts of shorthand that we know what it means, but the seller may not. So in as much as you can, show them the information and highlight the things that are important for them to pay attention to. Sales price, days on market, sold price. So highlight the original listing price and the sold price, because it may be that this home was listed for $249,000, but then when you show it actually sold at $232,000. Well, why do you think that is? Probably didn't appraise. So even though it was listed for $249,000, they had to sell it for $232,000. So does that $249,000 mean anything? Nope. At the end of the day, this is what it sold for. Understand that when you're going through. Focus them on the market status. How many homes are currently for sale that are direct competition to them in their market, in their community, in their neighborhood, whatever it is? Focus on the amenities. This home had updated granite in the kitchen and bathrooms, had a brand new roof, brand new air conditioner. Your home does not. Size, location, condition, presentation. Make them see these things, because these are the factors that are going to determine whether or not that home sells. So get them to pay attention to the things that matter, the things that are going to steer that conversation in the way that you need it to go. Utilize that CMA as a tool for value, which confirms that, successful sales happen when certain requirements are followed. Homes are selling in here when they are priced effectively, at a competitive commission amount, marketed aggressively, with good quality presentation. There are homes in here that are selling. There may be homes in here that are not selling. Talk about why those homes are not selling, why they are, why they're not. But be very, very careful not to demean the other listing agent. Show your value, show what you do that is different, but be careful not to talk badly about another agent, because that never goes well. This is sales 101, and it's true of any industry. It doesn't matter what you're selling. My wife and I were car shopping this last weekend. We went and bought her a new truck. And the salesman was very good, because we told him we're down between this model and that model, you know, at a competing dealership. And he was very good to say, well, let me show you what my truck has that their truck does not. He didn't talk badly about the other dealer. He didn't talk badly about the sales team. He didn't talk badly about anything. He showed us the value of his truck over the competition. And so we ended up buying it. Conversely, when we were looking at another one and we told them the two trucks that we were looking at, they were like, oh, you don't want to go to that dealership. They're shady and they're sketchy and they're going to try and rip you off and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. You're not telling me the value of what you're doing. You're demeaning the value of what somebody else might do or what you have heard that they may have done to someone else. That's not sales. And we ended up not buying that vehicle from them because the salesperson had done that. So it is important that you understand that you don't talk badly about the competition. You just show what you do that is superior to that. Level the playing field. Compare apples to apples. That agent is going to come in. They're going to throw a sign in the yard. They may or may not use a professional photographer. Based on some of the other listings they have, they're not using all of the psychology that's going to help people be drawn to your home. Those are things that they don't do. But let me show you how I do all those things and more. I am the expert, and I am the person that is capable of getting this home sold for you. That's what I do differently. That is the value of choosing me. I need you to trust that you are hiring the right agent to get this job done. And I am the right agent for that. Use your CMA as part of that tool. Homes sell when they're priced right, with a strong commission and the best presentation. I'm going to do those three things for you because I'm the expert. That's what it takes to get your home sold. Homes don't sell when they're overpriced, with a low commission, and poorly represented. I'll show you other properties in your community that were shot with a cell phone, where you can actually see the mirror of the agent's car from the front of the house because they couldn't even be bothered to get out of the car to take that photo. And I promise you, if you go through the MLS, you will find one that will have a mirror in the corner because the agent didn't even get out of the car to take the photo. I promise you. I find them all the time. It absolutely kills me that this agent is being paid to do a job and they cannot do it effectively. Be better. We train you guys to have the tools and the experience and the knowledge and everything that you need to be successful. Use them. Don't be that cut rate agent. Because at the end of the day, the commission is not the end all for why homes sell. I promise. Just remember that. So I've done my presentation. I've gotten them to agree. I've gotten them to say yes a few times. I've shown them the value of what I can do. My 18-point marketing strategy that's in my listing appointment. I am showing all the things that I can do to get this sold. So now they're ready to sign the documents. Awesome. Do you have any other questions? Nope. Okay, great. Let me pull out the documents and I'll get you to sign. Let's go ahead and get this rolling. If the seller goes, well, there's one other agent I want to talk to, or I need some time to think about it. What that means is you haven't overcome all their objectives yet, or objections, not objectives. So ask them, okay, well, what's going to keep you from signing with me right now? Well, I'm just not sure. Okay, how can I make you sure? Whatever the answer to the question is, overcome those objectives. Because again, the seller doesn't need to think more about whether or not to hire you if they are convinced that you are the only agent capable of doing what needs to be done. There's still some objection there that you haven't addressed. And I'll tell you guys, more often than not, by the time I pull out my documents, they're ready to sign. I don't get a lot more objections after that. So if they're saying no, there's usually some other objection that you haven't mitigated. And maybe they did just commit to meet with another agent. So what I typically say is, okay, when is that appointment? Today at 5. Awesome. I'd love the opportunity to follow up with you once that appointment is done. Because at the end of the day, I'm not as worried about competition. I know that the value of what I do is worthwhile. And I know that most agents are not going to ask for the close at that appointment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up with them. I'm going to follow up with them about 6:30 and go, hey, so are you ready to list with me? And more often than not, they're going to go, yeah. The things that you said and the things that you do absolutely blew that other agent out of the water. I figured out about halfway through their presentation that I was not going to hire them. So I was just about to call you to come list this house. Perfect. I'll send you the paperwork. You'll have it in 15 minutes. Was that hard? No. But that's how you win. Ask for the business. If you don't ask for it, you're never going to get it. Share the details of the documents as you notate the agreed list price. So as we're going through our listing agreement, we're going to talk about, here are the points that you need to pay attention to. Here's the list price. Here's when the listing is going to go live. Here are some of the things that we're going to do. I need you to initial the bottom of this page, have them initial, flip it over, and start talking about the next page. Be the expert that can explain this paperwork to them. Now, you don't need to spend a ton of time going over every line, but be available for the questions. Excuse me, sorry. Be available to answer those questions because you're the expert. Handle and move past any objections or concerns with skill. So the $500 cancellation fee. Oh, well, why is there a cancellation fee? I will tell you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, in all the years that I have done real estate, I have never once collected that cancellation fee. And here's why. I list homes to sell. If you have a life change that comes in and you go, you know what, Greg, something happened and I can't sell my house anymore. No problem at all. I will let you out of your listing agreement and I won't charge that $500 cancellation fee. But remember at the very beginning when I told you that it takes money for me to take a listing? I'm going to pay for photography. It's a couple $100. I'm going to pay for a sign. That's another $50. I'm going to pay for a lockbox. That's another $75. I'm going to pay for all these things. I'm going to spend money to take your listing. So what this means is if you call me a week down the road, once I've paid for all this stuff and then go, hey, just kidding, I changed my mind, no problem. I'm going to hold you to that $500 because I have not had an opportunity to recoup the money that I spent to take your listing. That's all that is. But like I said, in my years of real estate, I've never once charged the seller a cancellation fee. I just haven't. But I put it in there because I'm assuming a lot of risk to take your listing. Financial risk. So this just protects that the money that I'm about to spend to take this listing, you're not going to change your mind a week down the road and go, just kidding. I don't expect that that would happen, and it more often than not wouldn't, but this is just a protection that's in there for that. Does that sound reasonable? Yep. Okay, great. Let's move on. These objections are not that hard to overcome if you are prepared for them. Now, the two biggest obstacles to listing a property. The seller believes their home is worth more than the market value, and they want you to do the work at a reduced commission. Those are the two that you're going to overcome consistently. The working for a reduced commission gets done pretty easily when you show the value of who you are and what you do, when you are the expert. The seller thinks their home is worth more than the market value. So, okay, let's talk about that for a second. Why, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, do you believe that your home is worth more? I've just shown you my comparative market analysis of all of these comparable homes, what they sold for, what they were listed for, what they are currently listed for. What in this data that I have presented to you causes you to think that your home is worth more than that? Just ask the question. Well, Zillow says, okay, great. Zillow uses an algorithm that has a margin of error of 30%. I was actually in a Zillow training, and I've looked and looked. I cannot find the picture of this slide. But in a Zillow training, in fine print at the bottom of their slide, it says the Zillow Zestimate has a margin of error of 31%. They put this in their own training. They know the Zestimate is garbage. But you know what? It's a computer system that just pops all this information and goes out. So let's say, for example, that I have a home, and I'll explain to you guys why it has the margin of error that it has. Let's say that we have a home. My home is on the outer edge of this community, and on the outer edge of the community behind it, I have a $200,000 home, but the home directly behind it is $600,000. It's a different phase, it's a different whatever. Zillow doesn't recognize that. It just shows house 200, 200, 200, 200, 200, over here 600, 540, 530, 7, 12, whatever. So it's going to take all of that data and put it together. Let's say, for example, that you have a home that backs up to a school. The school is $40 million. Zillow is going to look at that and go, oh, the property that was behind this house was $40 million. Now, it's obviously going to take enough other data to wash that out, but it's going to pull that value of the home up. This is the fallacy of the Zillow's estimate. It is not effective. When I'm doing my CMA, I am only comparing properties that are within 10% of the size, that have similar features or functions, that also have a pool or don't have a pool, whatever this is. So in the data that I have presented to you, where I am truly comparing your home to other similar like-kind properties, what in here did I miss that causes you to believe that your home is worth more than what I've shown you? In reality, they don't have a good argument for it, because I have presented it in such a way that I am the expert. This is what I do for a living. I know how to price homes, and I price them very well. It is extremely unlikely that a home that I had listed didn't appraise. It's happened once or twice, but I'm usually within a couple $1,000s of the appraisal, one way or the other, because I know how to build a CMA and I know how to price a home. Not that hard, guys. But if you do a good enough job at showing the seller the data, the true hard data, it becomes very hard for them to argue with you. And what's interesting is if they do meet with another agent that comes up with a much higher price, they're going to ask that agent, well, where did you come up with it? Oh, I'm using this comparable and that comparable. And they're going to look at it and go, oh, well, Greg specifically told me he didn't use that one because it wasn't similar. I'm now educating them on this process. I'm being that expert. That's how I get listings. So what is the takeaway for you? You have to master objection handling dialogue and the techniques for pricing. I don't know why it says overpricing. The techniques for pricing the listing and accepting a reduced commission. Techniques for not overpricing the listing or accepting a reduced commission. There's a big not right there. I need to be able to anticipate those objections and be able to price the home effectively and get the commission rate that I know I deserve. That's part of the negotiation. It's part of selling yourself. So winning at the listing appointment comes from your ability, your confidence, your willingness to fight for your commission, for the right price, for the ability to sell this home. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you fight for. And that's true for the seller as well. You don't get what you deserve. That's not how life works. Very few people get what they deserve. What they get is what they're willing to fight for. So you guys be willing to fight for what you are worth. Put in the time to learn the things that you need to learn. Learn how to do a CMA effectively. Learn how to present your listing presentation. Convey the value of using you over the competition, because that's how you win at a listing appointment. A couple other helpful tips. Don't provide a pre-listing package. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Agents say, hey, let me work up a CMA and I'll shoot it over to you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because what it does is it completely negates your ability to explain it. You buried the lead. You gave them the price right up front. You've lost. Give them the CMA when you arrive to do your listing presentation. Use social media to learn about the sellers. If they're not people you know very well, Facebook stalk them, Google them. Find out what they do for work. Have some points of commonality that you can have that discussion. Take a personal interest in the seller's needs and desires. Guys, it's not about me earning a commission. It's about me helping you as the seller achieve your goal. Your goal is to get this home sold for the most money possible. I am here to help you reach that goal. My commission is secondary to that. Everybody subscribes to WIFM. What's in it for me? The seller has to believe that there is value to what you are selling them. When you have value, when you establish your value, it doesn't become about the cost anymore. It becomes about what I get for what I pay. Two agents can have the exact same commission and get a very different value. For you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to make this as painless a process as I possibly can. I'm going to work to foresee as many obstacles as I possibly can. Why don't we have a pre-listing home inspection? It's about 99 bucks. And what it does is it allows a home inspector to come in here and inspect your home exactly the way they would if they were doing it for a buyer. But that report is just for you. So you're going to know right up front what are the issues that a potential home inspector might find when a buyer comes under contract. Many of these things can be fixed or addressed very inexpensively. Now, if I can get out and get those things fixed in advance, when the buyer has a home inspection, I'm not stressed about the fact that they're going to come ask for $10,000 worth of repairs because I've already had my own home inspection. I already know what to expect. So I've now taken the entire stress of that situation away. Is it worth spending $100 to alleviate that stress? Would be for me. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you're confident that I have missed the mark on pricing your home, why don't we go ahead and have an appraisal done? An appraisal is going to run about $350, but you know what? At closing, I will give you that $350 back. So it won't cost you anything at closing. I will give you that $350 back out of my commission. What have I done? I've now alleviated all of those stress points for this seller. They have an appraisal and they know what their home is worth. They've had a home inspection. They know what the issues are that exist with their home and they're able to address them up front. I've alleviated most of the stress of this transaction. Be preemptive. Understand what it takes to be the expert and practice every aspect of the dialogue for mastering winning at the listing appointment. Practice it, guys. You have to. You cannot wing a listing appointment. You just can't. Now, I've had listing appointments where somebody calls and goes, hey, I got your number from Dan and they told me to give you a call. Awesome. I love Dan. I've worked with him for a couple of transactions now. Fantastic guy. Right? Now we have that point of commonality. Now they like me because we've got a friend in common. Awesome. I walk in and I'm like, okay, let me go through the listing presentation. And I've actually had people stop me and go, you know what? Just give me the number. I've already decided you're the guy. I know I talked to Dan, and Dan couldn't stop talking about all the amazing things you do when you list a house. I've heard all about it. I already know you're my guy. Let's just get it done. Okay? You know, there's a couple of things I'd like to show you just to make sure that you understand. If you'll give me 5 minutes, let me touch on a couple of things and we'll jump right to the paperwork. Does that seem fair? Awesome. That has literally happened to me. I showed up and they stopped me as soon as I pulled out my listing presentation and went, don't even bother. I already know what you're going to do. I know that you're my guy. Let's just sign the paperwork. Okay, here we go. Sometimes it is that easy, but I really want to be able to convey my value to that seller. I want to make sure that they know what they are getting for that commission. I don't want it to be a question. Because at the end of the day, I am the expert that's going to ensure that this transaction goes as smoothly as possible for them. Buying and selling a home is one of the top 3 most stressful things that a person will do in their life. Getting married, divorced, having kids, buying or selling a house. Those are your 3. If I can come in and alleviate that stress for you, do you think I'm worth my commission? Of course I am. That's the value. So what do you guys have for questions about listing appointments, about the whole process we've gone through, any of that? Let me turn off my screen share here. What do you guys have? No questions, really? How does that happen? All right. Well, nobody has any questions. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that was valuable. Like I said, next week, we're going to be doing a class on the art of the negotiation. So how we negotiate in this kind of listing appointment. I gave you guys a few of those techniques, how we negotiate throughout the deal, all those different things that come up. We're going to talk about the value of negotiation and how you get what you fight for. So I encourage you to be back next Monday. Again, I record all these sessions and I will work on getting it put out and get you guys ready for the next one. But as always, thanks so much for being here. I do appreciate you taking your time to come be with us, and I hope you have a great day, great week, and I will talk to you again soon. See ya.